All right, everyone. Today I am talking with Angelina Oliveira, and we are going to talk a little bit about her story, her brothers, her son, and some of the things that I think a lot of people need to know about when it comes to the FDA and some of the treatments and availabilities for rare diseases. This is stuff that a lot of people just are walking around in their everyday lives and it's not affecting them and they don't realize what's going on in the background that is having a huge impact on the lives of people that are dealing with rare diseases every single day. And it's so important that they have the availability and the funding that they need in order to get these treatments and these experimental drugs and things like that. So I am not fully up to speed on it myself, but I'm really interested in this because I think it's so important when we're talking about where are federal dollars going and who has access to what they need. And so Angelina has a really personal story. So Angelina, could you just give us sort of the background of like how you decided to walk into this as an advocate and why it's so important to you?
Yes. Two of my brothers were diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. They have since passed. My oldest brother passed away when he was 20, and my youngest brother passed away when he was 21. Duchenne muscular dystrophy is all I've known. And I now have a 14-year-old son, Ryu, and he too is diagnosed with muscular dystrophy and he is wheelchair bound.
And so when it comes to your brothers, I'm sorry, my dog is barking, so I apologize for that.
No, it's okay.
Um, this is what year were your brothers born? Because that was a while back then.
Yeah, so my youngest brother was born in 1996 and my oldest brother was born in 1979.
Okay. And what was the lay of the land back then that, in the 90s, in terms of experimental drugs and treatments and things like that? Did they have access to things like that? And how have things changed over the past 20, 25 years?
Right. When my oldest brother was going through his Duchenne journey, there was no medications. There was the only thing that was available to help with the disease was prednisone, which is steroids that I'm aware of. There were no gene therapies. There were no other medications that they could take. And that was the same thing for my little brother as well. So back when my mom and dad were navigating Duchenne back in those days, they were basically pioneers because they were navigating Duchenne far before social media. And honestly, when Duchenne was still not very much known within the medical community. And so my brother Angelo had a spinal surgery, which they attached a rod to the top of his spine, to the bottom of his pelvic bone, due to scoliosis, which can form within a Duchenne individual. And he was one of the first ones. The doctors told him, this is one of the first surgeries we've performed of this. You have a 50-50% chance of living. And my brother was courageous and brave, and he made that decision to go ahead with the surgery because he knew either way, it was either, we knew what it was on the other end, which was death, right? Which was a more difficult life. And no FDA commissioner or bureaucrat stood in the way of my brother's decision. It was his decision and his alone. So,
And so, give us the lay of the land today. What's happening? I know you have written a couple op-eds, USA Today, and there was another one I read in the Daily Signal, I think. Um, what are the barriers today that are standing in the way of people like your son and other people that need access to things? And why are there barriers? What is the purpose behind people trying to make it harder for you to get what you need?
so right now, this day and age, present time, there is a gene therapy that is FDA approved for Duchenne. And it has shown to show great progress to slow the progression of muscular dystrophy or Duchenne. While those trials were going on, unfortunately, there were two people that passed away, but they already had underlying health issues that were already progressed on its own. And so, on top of this, yes, it unfortunately, God rest their souls, it did take their life. and they happened to be in wheelchairs. So the FDA had approved it for all Duchenne patients. Once these deaths happened, they then stopped it to non-ambulatory patients, which is people in a wheelchair like my child. And now people that are ambulatory, still able to walk, are the only ones that have access to it. For me, why that affects me is because they're worried about risk. The FDA was worried about risk. Okay, but we're already living in risk. My son is wearing a BiPAP machine every single night just to sleep and have a good sleep at night, to keep his heart functioning, breathing okay. I know what risk is, because every time I flip on that switch to go into his room in the morning, I don't even know if he's going to be alive. So I understand risk. We're not asking the FDA to just throw open the doors and forget safety and forget. We're just asking them to focus on science. The science is there. The research is there. The effectiveness is there. We as parents should have the choice whether, and to sit down with our medical professionals and to weigh the options. And that choice should be ours, not somebody out there in the FDA sitting behind a desk, not even knowing what we live with and go through day to day.
And I assume that once the FDA, takes away the option for someone in a wheelchair to have this, it's a whole bureaucratic nightmare to get it switched back.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
wrote about, it was Dr. Marty Makary who was head of the FDA, and he's the one, or at least I believe you wrote, he is the one that sort of implemented some of this, and now he's gone, but yet you're still living with the repercussions of some of the choices he made. So can you talk
Yes.
specifically about how he played a role?
Yes. So it was under the time that the commissioner of the FDA, Dr. Marty Makary, and Dr. Vinay Prasad, which he was the CBER for FDA. They made this decision based on those two unfortunate deaths, which I understand. But you cannot fit every patient into one certain box. Just because my son is in a wheelchair, yes, his legs are not working. His heart is healthy. His liver enzymes are healthy. He sees his neurologist every 6 months, his PT, his pulmonologist, his cardiologist, his endocrinologist. We're staying on top of that. It should be case by case, I feel. But what they have done has been, it almost feels like it's irreversible at this point. Because for us, because my son's 14, life expectancy, unfortunately, is early 20s at best. We're right around the corner. I'm seeing how long it's taking just to, hey, don't forget about the Duchenne gene therapy that happens to be the only one available. And when I say time is muscle, every single day my son is losing muscle. And
Mm-hmm.
when they're saying, oh, well, we're running the risk of something, yes, that's going to happen if you continue to wait. The
Yeah.
closer we get to the 20s, I mean, come on, we can do the math, you know? So I'm very sad that I feel like their time within the FDA really set a roadblock within the rare disease community. And I feel so extremely sorry for the families that were fighting for treatments while they were in office and their family member unfortunately passed. I can't even imagine how that must feel. So we're just praying.
And what, for this gene therapy, I think that's what you said it was. Um, if your son had access to it, what is your hope for him if he were to gain access to it?
So if we were able to gain access to it, it would it would at least it would give him a longer life. We would hope, right? Because we don't know, we haven't taken it. We have seen some very positive stories with other Duchenne patients getting a lot more strength than what they had before, heart doing better. And I know that they several of them did have a difficult time when it was initially administered, which their body was probably, it just a little cattywampus, But now they're doing great. They're transferring themselves out of a chair to another chair, which my son can't even get up out of bed by himself. He can't get in bed by himself. He can't change. He can't feed himself. He can't bathe himself. So anything that could allow my son to gain more independence and more dignity at a teenager his age, that's all we're asking for, to give us a fighting chance.
And have you had any response from some of the advocacy you've been doing? Have you been able to talk to anyone, make any headway with this?
So I have spoken to a lot of the Duchenne moms. I started advocating on Instagram back in February. I went to Washington, D.C. for the first time on the East Coast, had never been there. First time in an Uber. It was quite an experience. And I got to sit in on a U.S. Special Senate hearing on aging. I spoke with Senator Ron Johnson, Senator Rick Scott, Senator Gillibrand, and I was so moved by how many other moms within the entire rare disease community were all fighting for the same thing. And so that trip to Washington just lit a fire underneath me. And that's when my advocacy work really went into full throttle. And I have personally invited Dr. Marty McCary and Dr. Vinay Prasad. I invited them into my home to come spend an evening with us, to get into the nitty gritty, to see what we actually go through on a day-to-day basis, just to get through a rare disease day. And my invitation is to the commissioner that's coming in and the fill-in commissioner that's sitting in right now, that's temporary. We're crying out. The rare disease family, rare disease parents, we're crying out for them to at least hear us, give us that opportunity to save our children, because if they were in the same situation, I know they would do anything to save their child.
And do you have any idea what would need to happen in order for that to change? Would the incoming commissioner have to then, like, he's the one that has to say it, or does it need to go through Congress, or how would that work?
To be honest, I'm not too familiar with the whole politics part of it. I'm just a mom, but my question is why, like, I know President Trump has the ability to put his input within the FDA, which we hope that could happen. But yes, I do believe that it would have to, Congress has the ability to sit with the FDA and try to implicate or implement something that would work, that would speed up the process, because what we're fighting for is urgency within the
Mm-hmm.
FDA. We don't have time. We don't have time to sit and wait while they're discussing politics or this or that, or paperwork behind the desk. We don't have time. So we just need them to hear us, give us that opportunity, give us the choice, because back when President Trump, he wrote the right to try, okay,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
which allowed the parents and the patient to determine if the treatment or whatever would be suitable for them, and they were hoping to leave that up to the patients. Well, here we are after that was put in, and we're still waiting. We know Senator Ron Johnson started the Right to Try 2.0. We're still waiting.
So right to try, you're saying right to try is not actually working?
We're still not being given the opportunity to even
Mm,
try anything. It's
mm,
being we're not being given the opportunity to say, let me go sit with our physician, with our specialist, and we'll decide if we're going to be able to try this gene therapy, see if it's going to help my son Ryu, see if it's going to suit his disability. And
mm-hmm,
then if it did, be able to call up and schedule that to get that started. But we
mm,
can't. We have to sit and
mm.
wait until somebody tells us it's okay to do so.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
Yes.
Um, and this is, you're talking specifically about this gene therapy for Duchenne, but you're not alone in that. there are a lot of rare disease parents out there. And so I mean, you may not know this, but I'm just curious, are you seeing this a lot with other diseases where like it's like these weird stipulations where you have to be a certain severity level or not in order to partake?
Yes. Well, and to be quite honest, I have been I have become friends with some of the rare disease moms in the San Filippo community.
Mm,
And
mhm,
they had treatment, and their treatment was blocked because of, I believe, a technicality. It
mm,
wasn't even really per se to do with the treatment itself, and they're still waiting. So once the FDA realizes, oh, this was just a technicality, why is it taking so long to get back on track? Do they not want to help us? Or
mm,
is this country not for the people? Because I am a law-abiding citizen, pay my taxes, teach my children morals to respect this country, no matter what they where anyone stands. You respect this country, and
mhm.
it's like we're not getting any leadway here. We're not
Yeah.
getting Nobody is doing anything. And of course, I don't know what's going on in the background within the FDA. So I'm not going to just, cut anybody's legs from beneath them, but we're not seeing anything.
Hmm. No
My son,
communication.
there's no communication. Nobody reaches out to I feel, to the rare disease community. It's like, just hold on and wait. We can't wait. We wait all the time. We wait for doctor's appointments. We wait on the phone call for insurance companies. We wait to see if we're going to get approved for treatments that could assist in keeping their muscles strong. We know waiting. We don't
Hmm.
have time to wait for a treatment that could help extend my son's life.
Yeah, man. Um, what, if you had the FDA listening right now, if you had Donald Trump listening right now, what would you say?
Give us the opportunity and the chance to decide whether a treatment is going to work for our child. We live with
Hmm.
risk every day. We
Hmm.
understand that there is risk. On the other side of no treatment is death.
Hmm.
So at least give us that opportunity to have, on the other side of treatment, a possibility of our children living longer.
Hmm.
Because I know this sounds very heartless, but they're dying. They are
Hmm.
dying, and we
Hmm.
need to, we want to save our children. Who does not want to save their child? Like, I remember when Ryu was in my belly still, I had a mother, and I know this might go off topic, but I just felt like I needed to say this. She came up to me, sweetie, is it too late to abort? No, I'm not. What? Why would
Hmm.
you come and tell me that? I knew that there was a possibility that I would have a son with Duchenne. I chose this. Okay. I know people might not understand, and that's okay. That was mine and my husband's decision, and ours alone. And I saw what a wonderful blessing these Duchenne boys bring to a parent's life. They are angels here on earth. And so when I was given that opportunity, and I found out when Ryu was 1 month old that he was positive for Duchenne, I made it my mission to fight, not just for my son, because, to be honest, this treatment could pass my son. This treatment could come too late, and my son could already be succumbed to his disease. But it's for the next generation, because I can't sit here. I watched my mom struggle with my two brothers, not much help, no treatment. Everybody was still in the
Hmm.
dark about Duchenne. I have a lot of knowledge now. I'm not saying I know everything, but if I can help in any way to help the next generation not have to endure what we're enduring right now,
Hmm.
then so be it.
Yeah, I think your message is so, so important. And you're speaking for so many parents. I have a friend who's going through this with her husband with another rare disease. And she says the same stuff as you. So sorry, it's made me a little emotional, so I apologize. Just thinking about your son. Sorry. I would love to hear a little bit more about him though. Tell us about him and his personality.
So, my son, like I said, is 14. He is when when I was 7 months pregnant, I knew that there was a possibility. So I took genetic testing, or I had genetic testing done. And I found out at 7 months pregnant that I was a carrier. So I had to go the rest of the pregnancy completely not knowing if my son was going to have Duchenne or not. And that right there was the most humbling experience, because within that brokenness and not knowing the unknown, God met me there and he strengthened me, and I was able to praise him through the storm. And so when Ryu was born, at 1 month old, we got that call. I'll never forget that day. My husband says that he's never heard a woman scream like that. And he said that's only a scream that a mother could give in such agony. And so I made it my mission from this day forward. I was going to be the strongest mom I could be for my child. And we had a wonderful, he was a wonderful baby. So happy, so lively, always smiling. Until this day, he's always smiling. When he was about 10 years old, he ended up in a wheelchair. And when I tell you it was one day from the next, he woke up one day and he couldn't get out of bed. And it
Mm.
was so heartbreaking to see that. And he fell into somewhat of a depression, from going to tying up your sneakers and running out the door to having to jump in your wheelchair and navigating life that way. And for a teenage boy going around at that age, you're figuring yourself out, right? You're trying to figure out life. But no matter what, he has always persevered. He has always pushed through, and his faith in Christ is so strong that he just leaves everything in the Lord's hands. And I know that his heart is so on fire for the Lord. He loves to play video games. He is quite the gamer. He loves football. He is the biggest Philadelphia Eagles fan. He has a dream of going to see them play at their home turf one of these days. He recently received a box full of fan gear from the Philadelphia
Oh,
Eagles.
cool.
He was very emotional. He cried that day, very thankful. And he tells me, Mom, when I was taking off to Washington, he said, Mom, I don't want you to go, but you have to go. You have to go fight for me. And you have to go fight for other little boys like me, to help families like ours. And when he said that to me, I just hugged him and kissed him. And he said, Mom, thank you for fighting for me. Thank you for giving me a fighting chance. And I got on that airplane and I made it my mission. And that's where my real advocacy work started, because I was sitting and hoping, like my mom did, praying fervently, praying, there's a treatment, it's going to happen. When I saw that there was no traction and there was nothing happening, I said, I can't sit here. I cannot. Even if I help only one Duchenne family, I cannot sit here and be quiet anymore. And he's been so proud and so happy, and he is hopeful for a treatment. He wants
Good.
to live long.
Yeah.
Um, he knows the outcome, and he's hopeful. And I'm praying that the FDA continues to give our children that hope, because at the end of the day, hope is all we have.
Hmm. Hmm. And you, I just would touch on this too. You sounds like your faith is a really big part of your life. How has that helped you along the way?
So I grew up a Christian, raised in the church. We were always in church almost every day. My mom had us in there. And that really began my firm foundation in Christ, because I saw the strength she pulled from it. And she was able to get through two boys with Duchenne, both of them passing, and she still stood strong on her faith. And so for me, I knew that it was my only option to hold on to Christ, because a life without him, I did not want to even experience that one. So I said, look, I'm giving my heart, my all to Christ. And so he is my motivation. I start every morning with a daily devotion. It sets the tone for the day. it gives me the strength I need, because when you're raising a child with a rare disease, it every day can feel like a battle. There are days where you feel like you're in the trenches and bombs are just coming at you. Insurance companies, doctors' offices, the FDA continuously saying no. There has to be hope. Hope has to come from where? And our hope is in the Lord. And so without my relationship with him, I'm not sure where I would be at today.
And how have you built that up in Ryu? You said he has a very strong faith.
When he was little, it just was going to church, praying, taking him to vacation Bible school, keeping him grounded in the Lord. And I think as he saw mommy's faith grow, he was sitting back watching, and he was seeing, man, my mom has gone through this and that, and she still praises God. And I see that in him. I see him, instead of fretting, instead of worrying, I'll see him sometimes just bow his head and start praying. And I've just encouraged him. Listen, buddy, life is hard. And God never said life was going to be easy. And he never said it was going to be fair. But what he promised us is that he would never leave us and he would never forsake us. And even though we are walking through the valley of the shadow of death, we will fear no evil. And I tell him that all the time. And those little sayings, those Bible verses, those little prayers that I've given him since he was little, it just started to add up. And now he has his feet firm in Christ.
Hmm. That's awesome. That's great. Um, well, I guess, we've talked about the message that you would send out there. Is there a way that people should get in touch with you if they want to help you with any of this advocacy work, anywhere that people can reach out to you?
Yes. So right now we have Ryu's Instagram. We started an advocacy page for him, and I have been working so hard to just, before this whole advocacy work started, I didn't have an Instagram. I didn't have any social media. I was just old fashioned. I just chose my life to be that way. But then I said, you know what? Are people going to hear my son's story? How else are people going to hear my mom and my dad and my brother's story? I have to get on a platform. So I chose to start an Instagram, and it took off. And I have been working really hard at it, and I'm very proud of it. And I have had a huge Duchenne community come up around us, and also the rare disease community, Huntington's disease, Sanfilippo,
Mhm.
SMA, spinal muscle atrophy, I believe that is. Yeah, they're all there, and it's great. So
Yeah.
if they want to reach out to us, his Instagram is RYU
Mhm.
strong, Ryu strong underscore DMD.
Okay. I'll definitely
And it's,
link that.
yeah, and it's the same. We're also on X as well.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, what's next, Angelina? Are you going to be going to testify anywhere, or do you have anything next on your agenda for what you're working on?
We are hoping that hopefully with when the new FDA commissioner is elected into office, or hired into office, I do hope to go out to Washington, D.C. And I most importantly hope that Ryu is sitting next to me in that hearing, because once you can put a face to a rare disease and they can see my son's precious face
Hmm.
and all the other rare disease patients that might be there and their precious faces, they matter. Their lives are precious. It doesn't matter if someone within the FDA thinks, well, they kind of already too far gone.
Mm.
That's inhumane. They still have a fighting chance as long as they have breath in their lungs. And we're not asking for them to get rid of safety or science. We're just asking them to look at the research. If it has worked, allow us to have that choice.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and Ryu's
Thank
story.
you.
And yeah, you've got me fired up. I want to get out there and talk about this more. It's
Yes,
really
thank you.
important. So
I,
thank
I
you so
see
much.
I see little kids every day on Instagram just trying to live.
Mm.
And I want to tell you, by you listening to our story and you wanting to help us make a difference, you are helping so many other mothers that are feeling the same desperation that I'm feeling. So I just want to tell you, thank you for taking the time to even hear me out. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you.